Have you ever looked someone in the eyes and seen yourself, not in shape or color, but in silence, in the way pain hides behind stillness? She was the only one left in the cage. Apache, bruised, called worthless, left behind like trash after a market clears. He came for rope, not people, but something in her made him stop. What would you do if the world told you a life was not worth saving? Would you walk away or offer a hand, knowing it might get bitten? This is not a story about rescue or romance. It is about two people who lost everything and still chose to stay. Stay with us, because sometimes the softest moments rise from the hardest land. The heat in Dry Hollow did not rise. It clung, thick, bone deep, dust curled around boots and windowsills. It whispered through gaps in the wood, like it belonged there. No wind, no clouds, just the sound of tired horses, and the stillness that always came after something cruel had been done. The holding pens stood empty now. Iron gates swayed with the memory of movement. Flies buzzed low over dried hay. They picked at things that should have been buried. Everyone was taken away. Mexican boys in rope-bound sandals, Navajo twins no older than 10, a Kiowa woman with scars on her face and a broken wrist. All of them were loaded onto wagons, like sacks of flour. And then there was her. Eliza stayed behind in the last pen. Or rather, she crouched near the back, her knees drawn to her chest, her fingers tangled in the leather ties that held her ankles, one sandal gone, the other torn. A strip of rawhide still wrapped tight around her wrists. Her cheekbone was swollen. A line of dried blood curled from the edge of her mouth. Her dress, once finely stitched deerskin, hung in tatters across her ribs. She had not spoken in 2 days. Not when the traitor slapped her. Not when the man from Silver Basin tried to drag her toward his cart. Not when they called her cursed, unbroken, wild. She did not scream. Only once did she spit. That was enough to make them leave her be. Not worth the trouble, they said. Not worth anything at all. One man laughed when she bit him, said he hoped she would rot in that cage. Another tossed a tin cup of water at her feet and said she was better off dead than free. But Eliza never blinked. She did not cry. She watched. Her eyes were dark, still, the kind that saw everything and told nothing. And then Bo Mercer arrived. He had not come for people. He came for nails, rope. A wheel spoke. Things he could not make himself. The kind of list a man kept short. The kind of trip he did not take often. He wore a wide-brimmed hat, pulled low. His shirt was sweat-darkened beneath the arms. His coat hung open. He carried a revolver. It was well kept, but untouched. His eyes were pale gray, almost clouded. Not from age, from use. He walked past the pens, twice. The first time, he did not look. The second time, he stopped, not in front of her, just close enough. He did not speak. The traitor saw him and stepped forward, his voice eager. That one you do not want her. Bit the last man who touched her. Got herself tied 3 times already. Bo said nothing. He reached into his coat and pulled out 2 silver coins. He placed them on the traitor's ledger. He did not speak. His hand was steady. His eyes stayed on Eliza. The traitor shrugged. He muttered under his breath. Then he cut the rawhide binding Eliza's ankles. He moved fast. Like she might lunge. She did not. She just watched. There was a pause, long enough to feel it. Bo stepped back. He opened the gate and waited. No gesture, no promise, just space. Eliza rose slowly. Her legs trembled. They were unused to standing. She did not look down. She did not stumble. She walked past him without touching, without a glance. She climbed onto the wagon like it was just another place to survive. Bo climbed up after her. He gave her a water skin. Then he handed her a threadbare wool blanket. She took them, quiet, watchful. The wagon turned east, away from the town, into the dry ridges. They did not speak. The sun began to lower behind them. Dry Hollow disappeared into the dust. Eliza never looked back. Bo never looked over. They rode together in silence, but it was not the kind that broke people. It was the kind that held room for something else, something that might begin. The road to the ranch of Bo was not much of a road, just two worn wheel ruts cut into the dry earth, snaking through juniper trees and brittle sagebrush. The land rolled gently, open, quiet, framed by pale blue ridges that stayed far in the distance. No fences, no gates, just land and silence. Eliza sat in the back of the wagon. She kept the blanket wrapped tight around her shoulders. The water skin rested by her side. She had not drunk much. Her eyes did not wander. They stayed locked on the road behind them, as if memorizing every turn, every rise and fall in the land, every shadow cast by the rocks. She did not trust him. That was clear. And Bo did not expect her to. He did not speak, did not offer comfort or promises. He only drove. The mule pulled them forward at a steady pace, hooves soft against the dust. The dog of Bo trotted behind, a lanky mutt with one ear torn and a limp in its back leg. It never barked, just followed, watching. By mid-afternoon, they passed a stand of cottonwoods. Their leaves shimmered in the dry wind. Just beyond them, a small rise opened into a shallow basin. Bo slowed the mule. Ahead sat the cabin. It was not much. Wood walls grayed with sun, a roof patched with tar cloth and flat stones. Smoke curled faintly from a crooked chimney. A porch with 3 steps. One sagged. A shovel leaned against the door. Behind the house stood a shed and a corral. The barn was low and wide. One side leaned slightly from wind or time, but it held. Just like everything else, Bo climbed down first. He did not look back. He unhooked the mule, led it to water, then began to unload the wagon. Eliza did not move. She watched him, silent, still. Bo carried the sacks of grain into the shed. He hauled in a bucket, checked the water trough, stacked the last bundle of rope against the wall. When he returned, Eliza was gone. The blanket lay folded in the wagon bed. He looked once toward the trees. He did not follow. Instead, he went inside, stoked the fire, set a tin plate near the hearth, bread, beans, 1 cup of boiled water. He sat in the corner chair by the window and waited. The dog curled by the door. Time passed slow, the kind of slow that stretched wide, like dusk over an open field. An hour, then 2. The sun dipped low. Shadows crept along the walls. Bo did not light a lantern. He just sat. At first, there was nothing. Then, footsteps, faint, unsteady. The door creaked. Eliza stood in the frame. Her hair was tangled. Her hands scraped raw. Her feet, bare and bleeding. There were pine needles stuck to her dress. She did not look up. She walked inside without a word. She moved straight to the fire, lowered herself to the floor, curled tight. Her hands shook as they reached toward the warmth. She did not look at him, but she did not run again. That was something. Bo slid the plate toward her. She ate, every bite. Slow. Focused. He watched her shoulders ease, only a little. Her breath slowed. She never spoke, never asked, but she stayed by the fire until her eyes closed. That night, she slept on the floor, curled near the heat, wrapped in nothing but the blanket and her will. Bo did not disturb her. He nodded once toward the back room, left the door cracked, but she never looked that way. In the morning, when he rose, she was still there, breathing soft, one arm tucked beneath her ribs, the other beneath her cheek. The fire had gone low. Bo stirred the coals, added wood, stepped outside into the cold. The frost cracked under his boots. The dog followed, ears twitching. The day would be long and quiet, but something had changed. Not much, just a little. Enough. Bo did not speak much the next day. But then, he rarely did. He chopped wood behind the barn, hauled water from the creek, checked the fence posts east of the corral. His steps were steady. Boots leaving faint prints in the frost. Eliza stayed near the cabin. She did not go far. She watched him from the porch once, hands tucked into the wool blanket, her eyes still hard, but no longer darting like a cornered animal. When Bo returned at midday, he saw the hearth had been swept clean. The tin plate from last night sat rinsed near the basin. She had not eaten anything else, but she had done something. That mattered. He made stew, just rabbit and potatoes, thick and plain. He did not ask her to join. He just left the bowl near the fire and ate his own by the window. That night, she curled near the same place, still on the floor, still wrapped tight, still silent. Bo did not offer the cot again, not yet. He let her set the pace. On the third morning, while Bo checked the wagon wheels, Eliza found a nail sticking up from one of the floorboards. It had been that way for months. She used the heel of a boot left by the door. Just one clean strike. It flattened the nail flush. When Bo saw it later, he noticed the scuff mark, the nail, the quiet fix. He said nothing, but he stood there a moment longer than needed. The next night, Eliza used the cot. She did not close the door. She still kept her back to the wall, but it was a shift. Later that week, Bo saw her near the front window. The sky was soft with evening. The hills behind the barn burned gold in the last light. She stood quiet, watching. He stepped beside her, close enough to hear her breath. She pointed once, toward the ridge. Graves. Bo nodded. My wife, my boy. She did not ask more, just stood still for a few seconds longer, then stepped away. The next morning, a wool dress sat folded on the chair near the cot. It was not new, but it was clean, dark blue, sturdy stitching, a simple thing from town. Eliza did not touch it at first. When Bo came in from feeding the horses, she stood by the stove, wearing the dress. It fit loose around the shoulders. The neckline came higher than the torn hide she had worn before, but not by much. She caught him looking, turned her back quickly, tugged at the fabric with nervous fingers. Bo looked away, too. Not because he was ashamed, but because he knew what it meant to be stared at the wrong way. He would not be that man. That afternoon, she followed him outside, just a few paces behind, watching how he moved, how he gathered kindling. She copied the motions. At one point, she bent for a fallen branch. Her side twisted. She winced. Bo stepped forward, reached out, but she raised her hand quick, not to refuse, to warn. He stopped, waited, then nodded, backed away. She straightened, kept going. They moved like that, careful, quiet, not quite together, not quite apart. Later, while Bo patched a leather strap in the barn, Eliza walked in, stood by the door. She did not speak. Then she stepped forward, sat beside him, began mending a tear in the saddle blanket. Her stitches were uneven, but they held. That night, she lingered at the table. He served stew again. She hesitated, just a second. then sat across from him. She ate without being told. Halfway through, she looked up. Why me? Bo chewed, swallowed, then shrugged. You did not beg. She looked at him a moment longer, then looked down at her bowl. She did not smile. She did not speak again. But she finished the food. That night. She did not wait for the fire to go low. She curled on the cot early. When Bo passed her to hang his coat, she did not flinch. She just closed her eyes and let sleep come. The morning after felt different, not in any grand way, but the silence held less tension. Eliza rose before the sun touched the window. She folded the blanket from the cot, smoothed it with care, then walked to the stove, stirred the embers back to life. Bo watched from the doorway. He did not speak. He just nodded once and stepped outside. The cold hit harder that day. Wind blew sharp across the ridge. The breath of the mule curled in the air like smoke. He fed the animals, checked the latch on the shed, rubbed down the back leg of the old mare. His hands moved from habit, but his thoughts stayed inside, in the cabin, on her. When he returned, the table was cleared, the floor swept, a cup of hot water waited near the hearth. She sat in the chair closest to the fire, not curled, not bracing, just sitting, her back straight, her braid loose, her hands wrapped around the warm tin. She did not say anything. She did not need to. That day. Eliza watched him work, from the porch, from the barn door, from the fence line. She stayed close, but not too close. Later. He left a knife on the porch rail, just a simple tool, worn handle, dull edge, nothing fancy. When he returned, it was gone. That night, Eliza brought in firewood without being asked. Bo handed her a shawl. She wrapped it around her shoulders and nodded. Not a thank you, just a nod. But it held something new. Trust was not a flood. It came in drops. The next morning, she found a bucket with a split handle. She wrapped the break with rawhide, tight and even. Bo tested it. It held. He looked at her. She met his eyes, then looked away. But she had looked. On the fourth day. They spoke again. Not much. Bo sat polishing the blade of his skinning knife. Eliza approached, slow, measured. Teach me words, she said. Bo looked up. English, she nodded. I know some. Not enough. He set the blade down, patted the chair beside him. She sat, close enough that their knees brushed once. He pointed to the table. Table, she repeated. Then the stove. Stove. She set it back, careful, soft. They moved through the room that way. Door, wall, knife, spoon. She laughed once when she mispronounced shelf. It was quiet. Barely a sound, but he heard it. It caught him off guard, like hearing music in a place that had never known sound. When she said his name, she said it slow. Bo. He looked at her. The way her mouth shaped the sound, the way her eyes held his. Something shifted, not fast, but clear. That night, he left the door to the back room open again. Eliza glanced at it, then at him. He did not say anything. She did not go in. Not yet. But she no longer avoided the space. By the end of the week, Eliza had claimed rhythm in the house. She knew how many scoops of oats each horse took. She could split logs now, though her aim was still wide. She still flinched sometimes, at loud noises, at sudden movement, but less often. That night, the wind howled hard against the shutters. Snow drifted in long, slow sheets over the porch. Bo lit 2 lanterns, one for the room, one for the hall. Eliza stirred the stew, her hands steady now. He set 2 bowls on the table. She added a third for the dog. After they ate, she sat by the fire, rubbed a sore spot on her ankle. The hem of her dress had pulled just enough to show a healing scrape. Bo sat across from her. He worked a leather strap, but his eyes drifted more than his hands. She noticed. She did not cover the scrape. She did not pull the shawl higher. She watched him, careful, not afraid. "I thought you wanted what others did," she said, quiet, direct. Bo shook his head. "That is not why I brought you here." "I know now," she said. "But I did not then." He stood, walked to the coat rack, took down a thicker shawl, brought it to her. She looked at it, then at him, took it, wrapped it slow, firm. Her hands brushed his. He did not move away. Neither did she. Later, as she moved toward the cot, she paused by his chair. He looked up. She leaned forward, pressed her lips to his cheek, soft, slow, then stepped back, lay down, pulled the blanket over her. She did not look away. Bo sat still for a long time, the fire low, the wind still howling. But something in the room had changed. It no longer felt like 2 people waiting. It felt like 2 people beginning. The next morning, the snow had stopped, not cleared, just stopped. The world outside lay still under a thick white sheet. The trail behind the barn had vanished. Even the fence posts looked shorter. Eliza stepped out into it before dawn. She moved quiet. No boots. Just her feet in the snow. Wrapped in the thick shawl Bo had given her. She did not say anything. She did not leave a note. She just went. Bo stood at the window. He saw the faint prints where the snow had packed under her weight. Then the wind began to blow, covered the path. He did not follow. He stoked the fire, mended a leather strap, fed the dog. The hours passed slow, no sound, no sign. He did not look to the woods, not until late afternoon. Then he heard it. Footsteps, ragged, bare. Eliza appeared in the doorway, her shoulders hunched, her legs scraped worse than before. Her braid had come loose, strands stuck to her face. Her fingers trembled from cold. She looked like she had tried to make it past the ridge, and failed. But it was more than that. She had looked for something out there, and not found it. She stepped inside, her body stiff, her eyes unreadable. She did not speak. She walked to the fire, sat on the floor, curled near it. Her hands shook as they reached toward the heat. She smelled of pine and smoke and fear, but she did not run again. Bo placed bread and beans on a plate, set it beside her, then stepped back. She ate, slow, every bite. She did not thank him. He did not ask her to. That night, she stayed closer to the fire, not curled tight like before, just near, breathing easier. He sat across from her, did not speak. The silence was not empty. It was full. When he rose to hang his coat, she did not flinch. She just closed her eyes and let herself be there. The next morning, she was awake before him. She had folded the blanket, stirred the coals, boiled water. She moved slow, but sure. The limp in her step had deepened, her feet swollen from the cold, but she walked. At breakfast, she sat without waiting. She did not look at him, but she stayed later. When Bo returned from the barn, she was not inside. He found her out back, by the woodpile. She was splitting small logs, her hands stiff, her swing weak, but steady. She had taken his axe, and his gloves. He stepped forward. She looked up. Their eyes met. She did not explain. He did not ask. He just walked to the side. picked up another log, together. They split the rest in silence. That afternoon, she sat by the stove, her ankle propped on a folded blanket. She rubbed it slow, focused. The edge of her dress had pulled just enough to show bruises. Dark, healing. Bo sat nearby, carving a handle for a new hoe. He watched her once. She did not cover the bruises. She looked at him, direct, not angry, not afraid. Later, she spoke. I thought I could make it. Bo nodded. He did not press. Eliza looked at the flames. I used to think running was the only choice. She paused. But sometimes it is just the only thing you know. Bo said nothing. She added, This time, I came back. Yes. He said, You did? That night, she moved to the cot earlier than before. When he passed, she was still awake, her eyes open, fixed on the ceiling. He stopped, waited. She looked at him, then closed her eyes, not to block him out, but to rest, fully. For the first time, it happened on the 8th day. The snow had started to melt along the southern fence line, just enough to show the dead grass underneath. Wind carried the smell of thawed dirt. The sky turned soft with the gray of late winter light. Eliza was near the barn. She had been brushing down the mare. Her fingers moved with slow rhythm, her back straighter than before, her jaw more relaxed. Bo stood at the workbench. He was fixing the latch on the chicken coop door. That was when the dog barked. Once, sharp. Then again. Bo looked up. The road leading to the ranch was not a real road, just a worn path only a few people ever took. Most never bothered. But now, 3 riders approached, slow but direct. Bo dropped the hammer. Eliza froze. The dog backed into the corner. Bo stepped forward, squinted toward the riders. He recognized 2 of them, Tom Calder and his cousin, from Dry Hollow. The third was a stranger, wore a sheriff badge, from a nearby town, not the usual lawman. The 3 men stopped a few feet from the fence. Tom spat near the post. Bo did not greet them. He waited. The stranger nodded once. You, Mercer. Bo did not answer. He just watched. Tom stepped in. We heard you took in one of the Apache women, one from the last trade circle. Bo said nothing. Eliza stood behind the barn door now, hidden, but listening. Tom spoke again. She is property, marked as trade, belongs to the labor group under county rule. She ran. Bo stepped forward. She is not property. Tom scoffed. That is not for you to decide, the sheriff added. Law says if she was purchased under contract, she is required to serve that time. Bo looked at them, slow, steady. She was left, tied in a cage. No one claimed her, no papers, no name, no law covers that. Tom narrowed his eyes. You planning to marry her? Mercer. You hiding her like some outlaw bride? Bo did not flinch. She is here because she chose to be. She chose. Tom laughed. Come on now. You know how they are. Wild, stubborn. They bite and lie and turn on you. They are good for one thing, and even then, Bo moved. Not fast, not loud, but deliberate. He stepped between the riders and the barn, placed one hand on the fence rail, the other on the revolver at his hip. You are not here for talk, he said. You are here to take. The wind shifted. The riders glanced at each other. Bo's voice stayed calm. You turn around. Now. The sheriff looked like he might speak again. Then he saw the way Bo stood. Not angry, not scared, just settled. Like he had nothing left to lose. And maybe something worth keeping. The sheriff turned his horse. Tom muttered something, but followed. The third man spit on the ground. They rode off, slow, looking back only once. Bo waited until the dust settled, then turned. Eliza was still behind the barn, her fists clenched, her face tight, but she had not run. He walked toward her, stopped a few feet away. "You heard it?" She nodded. "They would take me again." "Yes." "And you would stop them." "I just did." She studied him. Her eyes held more than fear now. They held decision. "Why?" He did not answer right away, then said, "Because I have stood by while things were taken before, and I still carry that weight." Eliza looked toward the ridge, then back at him. "I will not be taken again." "You will not," he said. That night, she did not sit by the fire. She sat at the table, her posture firm. She ate the stew slow, steady. Bo sat across from her. No one spoke, but something had been said already. Later, as she rose to go to the cot, she paused. Turned. "I can fight." Bo nodded. "I believe that." "I will not kneel again." "You never have." She looked at him one more time, then stepped into the back room. The door stayed open. The fire burned strong, and the wind outside sounded different, not harsh, just moving, just alive. The morning after the riders left, the ranch felt still, not afraid, just quiet, like something had passed through and moved on. Eliza sat near the stove. Her braid hung low over one shoulder. She wore the same blue dress, but the shawl rested on the back of the chair. Bo poured hot water into 2 cups, handed one to her. She took it. Their fingers brushed. She did not pull away. The silence between them no longer carried caution. It held weight, shape, meaning. After a long pause, she spoke. "Where are they buried?" Bo looked toward the window. The ridge behind the barn was pale in the light. Under the cottonwood, just past the rise. "You have lived here alone since—" He nodded. 5 years. She sipped from the cup. The steam curled near her cheek. She sat straighter now, more at ease in her skin. The bruises on her arms had faded. The scar on her shoulder remained. Raised, white, permanent. She pulled the sleeve of her dress down over it, then paused, let it slide back up again. "I was traded 2 winters ago," she said. Her voice was steady, not soft, not angry. "Twice since then, one man beat me, one tied me for 3 days. Trader said I was too much trouble. Said I speak too much, fight too much." Bo said nothing. He let her speak. "I was tied to a post for 2 days before they brought me to Dry Hollow." She looked at him then, direct, not for pity, not for reaction. "I would not kneel." He nodded. "I know." The kettle popped behind them. A crow called outside, sharp against the wind. Eliza leaned forward. "I stay because I am not afraid here." Those words settled like stones in quiet water, not loud, but deep. Later that day, the snow thickened again. She helped Bo close up the barn. They moved in rhythm now. She knew which tool to hand him. He knew when her side hurt, and she needed pause. The dog trailed after them, one ear twitching, tail low but calm. Inside, Eliza stirred the stew. She moved careful, still new to the kitchen, but steady. Bo set 2 bowls. She added a third for the dog. After dinner, she sat by the fire, her leg propped up, her hand rubbed slow over the ankle. A scrape showed just above her sock line. Bo sat across from her. He watched, not leering, just present. She noticed, did not hide. "I thought you would want what the others did," she said. Bo shook his head. "That is not why I brought you here." "I know that now." She looked into the fire. But I did not, then. He stood, went to the coat rack, took down a thick shawl, brought it to her. She looked at it, then at him. She took it, wrapped it over her shoulders. Her hands brushed his. He did not move away. Neither did she. The next morning, she fixed the latch on the feed bin, did not ask, just did it. Later. He mended her boots. She said nothing, but she wore them the next day, that evening. She sat first, closer to him than before, still not touching, but the space between them had changed. After supper, she watched him from the chair, then spoke. Do you want me here, Bo? He looked at her, his hands still, his voice low. I would not let you stay if I did not. Even if I had not touched you, had not kissed you, I would still want you here. She nodded, eyes steady. And if I did more than kiss you? The room fell still. The fire cracked once. He reached forward, not fast, not rough. He touched her cheek. His thumb brushed her jaw. I will not take what you do not give freely, he said. I know. She placed her hand over his chest. Felt the slow beat under his shirt. Then I am giving, she whispered. They did not speak again. Not that night. He lifted her slow. She wrapped her arms around his shoulders. They went up the loft ladder. The old hay soft under thick quilts. She lay back, without fear. The dress slipped off her shoulder, her skin scarred and warm. He touched her like she had never been broken. She held him like she did not need to fight. When it was done, they stayed there, breathing. Still, he said, You do not have to be anything here. She replied, I know, but I want to be yours. You already are. They lay in the quiet, snow tapping the roof. The rafters creaked, and for the first time, Bo Mercer closed his eyes, not to forget, but to remember. The days after the loft were quieter, but not the old kind of quiet, not the kind that hid pain or waited for a door to slam. This was the kind of quiet that held warmth, movement, a new rhythm. Eliza no longer used the cot. Her shawl now hung beside the coat of Bo. Her boots sat next to his by the door. No one said it aloud, but it was clear. She lived there, not as a guest, not as a debt, as a partner. She began tending more than just the fire. She learned the grain counts. She tracked the eggs from the hen house. She even started taking notes in the small ledger Bo had kept on a shelf for years. Her handwriting was careful, slanted, thoughtful. Bo watched, never corrected, never claimed, just noticed. One morning, he found her on the porch, barefoot. The sky still held a soft gray before sunrise. She looked toward the ridge, where the two graves sat under the cottonwood. She had not gone there yet, not out of fear, out of respect, that day. She waited until Bo returned from checking the southern fence line. His coat was dusted with frost, his boots thick with mud. I want to see them, she said. He did not ask who. He just nodded. They walked in silence. The trail curved through brittle brush. Snow clung to the edges, but the path itself had cleared. At the top, two simple markers stood, no names, just river stones, stacked with care. She stood between them, her hands folded at her sides. This one? She asked, pointing to the left. He nodded. My son, Micah. She knelt beside it. Her fingers brushed the top stone. I would have fed him, she said. Told him stories. Bo did not speak. His throat pulled tight. He had not cried in 5 years. But her words cracked something open, not pain, recognition. She stood. Do they rest easy now? He looked at the trees, at the way the wind moved through them. I think so, he said. I think they would have liked you. That night, by the fire, Eliza combed her hair. She turned to him. Will I meet trouble in town? Bo paused. Maybe. But you are not alone. She nodded. I want fabric for new dresses. I want to choose what I wear now. He smiled, small, but real. Then we will ride in spring. She stepped closer, smoothed the front of his shirt with her hands. And what will they say? Let them talk, he said. I know who you are. She pressed her lips to his neck. Slow, certain, that night, under the thick quilts. She curled into him, one leg draped over his. One hand rested on his chest. Do you want children again? She asked, her voice steady. Not testing, just wondering. Bo hesitated. If it happens, she looked up at him. Then I will stay long enough to see if it does. He pulled her close. You are not staying because of a child. I know, she said. I am staying because I have a place here, with you. Outside, the snow melted in the dark. Inside, they stayed in each other's arms, and for the first time, neither of them wondered if the other would leave. By the end of March, the roads out of Dry Hollow turned to mud. The cattle lowed in the southern pasture. The ranch woke up with the season. Eliza moved through it all like she had always been there. She wore a new dress, she made from fabric bow, found in an old trunk, dark blue calico. It fit her better than the first, cut to her shape, the neckline modest, but still low enough that when she reached up, it revealed the soft curve of her chest. She did not hide it. He did not stare. It was just part of the life they now shared. That morning, Eliza stood on the porch. Bo had gone out to break the ice in the trough. She waited by the fire, arms crossed, a small cloth bundle in her hand. He noticed her face when he came in. What is it? He asked. She held up the cloth. I was late. He tilted his head. Late. My moon. The words landed slow. Bo looked at her, calm, no panic. He stepped forward, opened the bundle, a piece of dried yarrow, wrapped with care. You are sure? She nodded. I did not know if I could want it again. Not after everything. But now, if it is real, yes. I want this. Bo poured hot water into the same cup she always used, passed it to her. We will find out together. She sat. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the tin, but her face held peace, a quiet peace. Later that day, Bo rode into town. Eliza stayed behind. When he returned, he found the cabin clean, the dog fed, 2 cups waiting on the table. You came back, she said. He frowned. Why would I not? She looked down. I have been left before. He placed a small bundle on the table, wrapped in soft cloth. She opened it. Inside, moccasins, smaller than hers, new. For the child, he said. Eliza did not speak. She reached across the table, took his hand. Her grip was firm, warm. That night, she rested her head on his chest, listened to his breathing. If it is a boy, she asked, would you name him Micah again? Bo shook his head. No. This one gets his own name. And if it is a girl, he paused, we will choose together. She smiled against his shoulder, not wide, but full. And when she slept, he stayed awake, his hand resting on her waist, feeling the rise and fall, knowing she was not leaving. Not anymore. By the time spring settled into the valley, the snow had vanished from the ridge. The ground softened. Green shoots pushed through old soil. The creek behind the cottonwoods ran fast again. The cold still lingered at night, but morning held birdsong. Eliza moved slower now, not from pain, not from fear, but from change. Her hand often rested just below her stomach when she walked, even before it began to show. She said nothing dramatic, no announcements, just slowed her pace, slept longer, ate more. Bo noticed, he always noticed, the way her back stiffened when she bent too far, the way her eyes watched his hand when he reached for hers. She had come to him as a stranger who refused to kneel. Now, she carried their child beneath her ribs, and looked at him as if she had always known he would be the one to hold her through it. On the first clear day of May, Bo hitched the wagon, Eliza dressed in the blue calico again. She wrapped her shawl around her shoulders, looped her braid low and tight. They rode into Dry Hollow together. The town had not changed much. Dust on the windows, faded signs, tired horses tied to crooked posts. People looked up when they arrived. Eyes followed them. Some stared. Most stayed quiet, but no one said a word out loud. Not while Bo walked beside her. His hand never touched hers, but it stayed near, always near. At the general store, she picked fabric. She asked the clerk about threads and thimbles. She felt the bolts with practiced fingers, measured the weight. A few women stood near the counter. They looked at her, curious. One of them smiled, not wide, but real. Eliza nodded back. That was enough. They did not stay long. Back at the ranch, the sun dropped low. Eliza spread the new fabric across the table. Dark red, pale green, a strip of faded yellow that caught the light. She began to cut, her movements sure, each snip clear. She was sewing for the future now. For herself, for the child. Bo brought her water, watched, did not interrupt. That evening, they sat on the porch. The hills were green again. The air smelled of pine and damp dirt. Eliza leaned into him. Her head rested just beneath his jaw. His arm wrapped around her. His fingers brushed her shoulder. I never thought I would have this, she said. Not after what they did. He was quiet for a long moment, then spoke. They did not take it from you. You held on. She looked up at him. You did not fix me. I did not try, he said. That is why I healed. The stars came out. The wind moved soft across the ridge. She turned to him. Do you want to marry me, Bo? His hand tightened slightly. Yes, he said, but only if you want to carry my name, because it is yours now, not because I saved you. You did not save me. You saw me. That is more. He stood, went inside, returned with a small silver ring, plain. It had belonged to his mother. He did not kneel. He did not speak. He just offered it. She slipped it on. It fit. That night, under the blankets. Her back pressed to his chest. His hand rested over her stomach. They spoke of names, of paint for the cabin, of building a swing under the cottonwood. And when the fire went low and the room fell still, they did not fear the quiet. They welcomed it. The days grew longer. Sunlight stretched across the fields. Earlier each morning, Eliza no longer rose with caution. She moved slow, but not because she was watching. She moved with purpose. She no longer touched the knife at her waist each time she passed the window. She no longer stood with her back to the wall. She had learned the sound of every board in the house, every creak of the porch steps, every click of the kettle handle. Not because she feared it, because it was hers. The dog followed her now, everywhere. Even when Bo went to the north field, the dog stayed behind, old, loyal, watching her like she was the fire that kept him warm. She had begun tending the bread. twisting the dough slow, with calloused fingers. She liked it. It gave her time to think, to breathe. Sometimes she sang, not loud, just under her breath. Songs from before, songs she had not dared sing for years. Bo heard once, did not speak. He just stood outside the door and listened. That evening, she brought him a slice of bread, still warm. He took it, broke it in half, gave it back. That was their way. No big words, just shared things. The garden fence came next. Bo drove the posts. Eliza followed behind, tied the wires, measured the rows. They planted late, but they planted. Beans, onions, a few squash, something to keep them rooted. One morning, Bo found her near the chest in the lean-to. It had belonged to his wife. He paused, not because he minded, but because he had not touched it in years. She did not open it. She just sat with her hand resting on the lid. Her fingers brushed the carvings on the wood. That was hers, he said. She nodded. You kept her things. I did not know what else to do with them. She looked back at him. Do you want me not to touch them? He shook his head. No, it is all right. She lifted the lid. Inside were simple things. A folded shawl, a hairbrush, a ribbon, a small Bible, and a photograph, black and white, a woman with light hair, and a boy with a crooked smile. She held it up. Your son. He nodded. Micah. He was 6 when he fell from the bluff. Her breath caught. I lost a brother to the river. We never found him. They did not speak for a long time. The wind moved through the open door. The chickens scratched in the dirt. She set the photograph back, closed the lid. I will not take space that belongs to her. You are not taking anything, he said. I do not want to be a shadow. You are not. That night, he handed her a small comb, the one from the chest. You want me to have this? He nodded. She held it, then placed it beside her. She brushed a few strands from her face. The fire lit her arms, her shoulders. She did not cover them. Later. As she turned toward bed, she stopped, leaned close. This time, she did not kiss his cheek. She touched her lips to his. Slow, certain. And when she pulled back, he reached for her hand, held it for a second, just enough to say he was still there. By late spring, her stomach had begun to round. Not much, just enough to change how she sat, how she bent. Bo noticed. He noticed everything. She said little, but her hand now rested below her navel without thinking. That morning, she stood on the porch, looked toward the cottonwood. I want to go, she said. Bo walked with her. Up the ridge. She stood between the graves again. She knelt beside Micah's. I would have told him stories, she said again. Taught him not to fear soft things. She stood. Do they rest easier now? I think they do. Bo said. I think they know you stayed. She looked at him, eyes calm. That matters. That night, she sat sewing. Bo read from the ledger. Nothing important, just numbers. But the quiet between them felt whole, not empty. He looked over. Have you thought of names? She nodded. If it is a girl, I want her to carry both, Apache and English. He smiled. If it is a boy. She thought for a moment. I want him to carry your steadiness and your silence. He reached across the table, took her hand. She did not pull away. Later, when the fire burned low, they sat outside, the hills dark, the stars bright, the air full of pine and growing things. She leaned her head to his shoulder. He placed a blanket over them both. You did not rescue me, she said. You gave me space to stand. You did the rest. He looked at her. You stayed. So did you. She smiled. That quiet kind. The kind that lasted. And beneath the cottonwood tree, the swing would come next. Something for the child. Something to begin. Sometimes, healing does not come from being rescued. It comes from being seen. This story reminds us that even the most broken souls can rebuild, not through grand acts, but through quiet choices, a warm meal, a word spoken at the right time, a space given without pressure. We are not defined by what was done to us. We are shaped by what we choose to do next. Eliza did not need saving. She needed a place where her silence was not feared, where her past did not cancel her future, and Bo, after years of grief, needed someone who did not ask him to speak, but still listened. It teaches us that love, at its best, is not loud, it is steady, that trust is not earned in one moment, it is built in 100 small ones, and sometimes, just staying is the bravest thing we can do. Thank you for staying with this story until the end. If it touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video. Share it with someone who needs a quiet reminder that hope still lives. And if you wish to hear more stories like this, do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these voices alive. We will see you in the next story. Until then, take care